Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We invite you to gather your candles close by so that we can light our candles together. And this week, we're honored to be welcomed into the France family home as they lead us in our Shabbat blessings, especially today because Natalie, it is her birthday today. So happy birthday to Natalie, and thank you for honoring Shabbat and leading us in our blessings as we turn to you to lead us in our Shabbat blessings. If you're following along in the prayer book, page 2 and 3.
So may the brightness of these candles control the anxiety and care for my heart and for the rest of my loved ones. May this Shabbat has peace and serenity, joy and peace. Keep a glow within us, O God, the spirit of gratitude, and many blessings, so that we may know the sweet taste of contentment and the rich harvest of sharing. Kindle in our homes, for our community, a deeper love for one another, for our people, and for the world.
Excellent.
Blessed are you, Adonai, God, sovereign of all, who helps us with his word to make us to kindle the light of God.
Thank you to the Frances. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We begin with the words of Hine Matov. As Hine Matov suggests, what is the good of us coming together? It is the goodness of taking an effort and making sure that it gets passed on to others. We've been trying to focus our prayers every week on a particular piece, on a new piece that we'll bring, and this week it's the words of Or Zarua Latzadik, that a light is sown, light is added to it, it grows when we work on deeds of righteousness and goodness and sharing our lives with others. Or Zarua Latzadik, that we find a way to make light in this world, not only because it brightens our lives, but because we believe that it is, in fact, contagious, it spreads, and that those around us will find that they can do the same. Please take a deep breath with us as we begin Shabbat together. Let's focus on the ways in which each of us helps each other, brings goodness into this world with the words of Or Zarua Latzadik.
Na
our voices high. We must hold each other tight. We must stand up in the night and be a light. Or Zaru ala tzadik uyishrei lev simcha. Or Zaru ala tzadik uyishrei lev simcha. Namana, 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 namana. Namana, 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 namana. Please join us for Lechado D, page 20.
Shabbat nekabela lechado di likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela lechado di likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela lechado di likrat kala Shabbat nekabela Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad Hishmi'anu el hamilchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad L'shem u'tiferet v'letchila L'chad odi likrat kala Shabbat nekabela Lechado di likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabela Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nilcha Ki hi mekor habracha Me'erosh mikedem nesucha Sof ma'aseh b'mashad batchila Lechado di likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabela Lechado di likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabela.
Verse 5. Hitoreri, hitoreri, kiva ura kumiori, uri uri, shirtaberi, kavod Adonai alayich nigla. Lechado di likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabela Lechado di likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Please rise and face the entrance to your home. Boi v'shalom ateret bala Gam v'simcha uv'tzochola toch emuneh am segula Boi chala Lechado di likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabela Lechado di likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nekabela. We continue with the Chatzi Kaddish on page 26. יתקדע ויקדע שמי רבה, ועמד יפרח ידותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחייך בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ויברו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעלם ועלמי עלמיה יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי הקדוש בריך הוא, לעילא מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תשבחתה ונחמתה, דעמי רבי עלמא, ויברו אמן.
We've left our Seder tables and we look towards Shavuot now. This time in our service, as we prepare for our Baruch Hu, our call to worship, a time in which we call to you from the Bima. We invite you to turn, to stand, face our ark, but perhaps we also ask ourselves, what is it as we leave the sense of Passover and enter into spring, what is it that we are facing, perhaps personally, perhaps together? What is it this week that we turn ourselves towards as we begin to pray as a community? Page 28, we invite you to rise.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'id, HaMevorach
I've enjoyed this week watching how the sun seems to creep up on our back deck throughout the day, getting closer and closer. A reminder of how every minute of the day is actually a moment of change. We say this blessing in our evening service for precisely that. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, who allows us to notice the change in the day, who brings on evening erasing light, and who in the morning brings that light back into our lives. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim, may we find a blessing as our seasons change, as light increases, and as we notice change from minute to minute. Words of Ahavat Olam, now page 32.
Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadta, Otanu limadta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachbenu, v'kumeinu nasiach bechukecha, v'nizmach בדברי תורתך ומצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נהגה יומם ולילה, נהגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל.
Please join us in the Shema on page 34. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malachuto, Leolam Va'ed. Please be seated and join me in chanting the V'ahavta on the next page. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadavarim ha'eleh asher Anochi mitzavecha hayom al lavavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'letecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam le'ot ayadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem.
I was reading an essay by the great poet and author Bialik. Earlier this week, he wrote about this very moment in our service, commenting on how throughout history we so often find ourselves wandering, and that there are songs that we attach to that give us a vision of the future. Mi Chamocha, the Song of the Sea, is the first of those songs that we are told was a beacon for the Israelites as they started their wandering in the wilderness. But he says that that wasn't enough. It's not enough to be sustained simply by a message. We have to do the work. We have to continue to fight on and march for a very long time. In the story of the Jewish people, we continue that march, singing the songs that we have sung throughout generations, songs that talk of our history, of God's miracles, of the gifts that we've given to our children from one generation to the next, of a land that has been ravished by war that was then created to be a homeland for the Jewish people. Let these songs carry us, inspire us, give us strength, but let us do the work to continue to march together as well as we look towards a brighter future. And we continue to sing the words of Mi Chamocha, page 40 in our prayer book.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha neidar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh, nora tehilot osef eleh. Tehilot Osefele. The prayer Hashkivenu tucking us in at night.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. Behamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha.
Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things,
O Adonai.
keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, guide wrong from right.
O Adonai. Amen. 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 O Adonai. Amen. 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 O Adonai.
We turn to page 46 in our prayer books as we turn towards our Amidah, a prayer in which we stand not only physically but also allow ourselves to turn back towards the ancestors who came before us and to turn inward towards those prayers that we have for this very moment. We begin with these words, asking for the strength and the ability to simply offer prayer. And then we count on each of us to do our job, to share these words and to bring our own to our service as well. Page 46, please rise.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu. Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, v'Elohei Yaakov. Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanara, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot. Umevi geula lifnei v'neihem, l'ma'an shemo be'ahava. Melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah, Rav le'hoshia, Morid hatal. Mechakel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim berofech olim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Micha mocha ba'al gevurot, Umida melach, Melech meimit umechayem, ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. Days pass and the years vanish and we walk sightless among miracles, God. God, we ask that you fill our eyes with seeing, our minds with knowing, so that there be moments when your presence like lightning illumines the darkness in which we find in our world. Help us to see wherever we gaze, that the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay touched by God, reach out for holiness, exclaiming in wonder, how filled with awe is this place? And we did not know it. We ask for precisely those moments to come to us as we share the words of Shalom Rav, page 60 in our prayer book, our prayer for an abundant source of peace to bring us to a sense of awe of what we have before us in our world.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. 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 Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael. Bechol ed ubechol shah bishlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam, Tasim Leolam.
Please take a moment for silent meditation.
Oseh shalom imroma, uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, imru amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol
Shabbat Shalom. One of my pandemic goals has been to focus on my physical health, something I have far too often neglected. This translated in my world to taking what I think of as the minutes that before the pandemic I would spend in my car, driving from one place to the next, or talking to somebody in the hallway. I took those minutes and I reallocated them to riding a bike in my basement. I was not one of those people born with whatever gene it is that causes people to be excited about exercise. I don't feel that my day is incomplete if I do not work out. I usually, in fact, feel my day is incomplete if I skip a meal. This is all to say that there is a bit of mental manipulation that occurs in order for me to spend that 30 minutes in the morning on a bike. I have found that planning things the night before helps. I have found that having the right gear gets me a little more excited. It's sort of like if I look the part, then maybe I'll act the part. But the most important factor I have found is finding a good teacher for whatever class I might be taking. And so I have very specific requirements. I like them to be very clear in their instructions. I find that I'm drawn to instructors who coach with positivity rather than what I would call the drill sergeants of the group, who make me feel like it's the first day of boot camp. Occasionally, I'll be on my bike and the instructor will say, "We're going to work hard for the next 30 seconds. Okay, I say to myself, I can do anything for 30 seconds. And I mentally mark the time on the clock on the wall. And here is the thing that I find I have almost no tolerance for. As the time approaches that 30-second finish line, and I know that I'm about to be done with whatever I promised myself I would just do because the instructor told me, occasionally the instructor will say, "You're stronger than you think, let's do an extra 15 seconds. Well, I have no patience for this. That's when things get biblical and I start saying things one should never be recorded saying. That was not the deal. You lied to me. I wasn't prepared for that. I was ready for this to end, and maybe I'm not as strong as you think I am." For a variety of reasons, I don't like surprises, and I definitely don't like surprises that move the finish line right when I'm about to cross it. The Torah portion this week is Parshat Shmini. Shmini refers to the first thing that happens in the Torah portion, which is Moses moves the goalposts. It opens by referring to the 8th day that Aaron and his sons stood outside God's office, the tabernacle, day and night. The very last verses of last week's portion say very specifically, "For 7 days and 7 nights, Aaron, you and your children, you shall stand here and prove your holiness to me 7 days." 7 is, of course, a deeply important number in Torah and our tradition. It refers to the 7 days of creation, the 7 days of the week, the final of those being this day we are beginning now, Shabbat. It's a sign of completion, of wholeness. Couples circle each other at a Jewish wedding 7 times for precisely this reason, and many of our holidays are 7 days long. And if you're thinking, well, some of them are 8, it's only because the first day is counted twice, and you don't start counting until the second day. 7 is a sense of completion for us. But this week, as Cantor Kathy will read in a few moments, the Torah portion begins not on the 7th day, but very clearly. Moses waits until the 8th day to allow Aaron and his children to move from the place they have been standing. Oh, if it were me, I would have been so mad at Moses, maybe even at God. I wouldn't have worked out with them the next day. And yet, the 8th day, the extra time added at the end of a goal we've been working towards, it seems to be more common in our lives than perhaps we admit. We are a people who love convenience. We often thirst for immediate gratification, and we want to see the realization of our work right now. I find this is no more evident than in our desire to right wrongs, to undo injustices. we have no patience. We saw this in this past year in so many ways, especially in the role of racism in our world, the way in which it tore upon our hearts and continues to do so, and we reacted quickly. We wanted the solution now to a problem that we've been facing for centuries. During our Black-Jewish dialogue, I was asked by one of the guests to describe whether I found the response to the insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th to have been racist. More specifically, I think the question was, had the people who attacked the Capitol been people of color, would they have been treated differently, in my opinion? I think there's more than enough precedent to show that an insurrection by people of color likely would have had a very different, perhaps much more violent outcome from law enforcement. But the challenge of that question is that while my opinion as an observer may be formed in a matter of moments, that true justice is a very slow process. It requires us to wait and stay focused, to care about this issue even when it is not on the forefront of our minds. And so our passion for justice in moments of injustice causes us to take this to the streets immediately, to walk out after George Floyd's murder. But here we are, approaching a year later, and the trial has just begun. And who knows when it will end, how long it will go on for after the fact, before there is any true justice for what happened that day that caused us to get up from wherever we were and to seek justice in that moment. We have to wait and wait and wait some more. These gross and deadly injustices enrage us and call us to action, but they also ask us to continue running the marathon for a long, long time. We have to stick with it far beyond the time we may have allotted in our mind for it, far beyond the time we've been motivated to work for it, because fairness in our world is a very long game, not a quick morning workout. I want to shift to Passover for a moment, because Passover, as it has ended, has turned us towards the counting of the Omer. The Omer is a counting of 49 days symbolizing the period of time between the Israelites' freedom from slavery in Egypt to the moment that they received Torah at Sinai. What is striking about this ritual of counting these 49 days is that it reminds us that these two things are separate from each other, that they were freed in one moment, and they waited a long time before they even knew where they were going. And so we count that time, we sit in our patient seats so that we can celebrate not just freedom, but the time that it took to figure out who we were to become a unified people, receiving Torah and the commandments and a shared set of values. This week, we started a new initiative at Temple we are calling Reaching for Ruth. We started this initiative because on Shavuot, in mid-May, when we've counted our 49 days, we are going to celebrate the moment that we became a community in our people's history, but we're going to spend these 49 days doing the work. For those who have not read the book of Ruth, that is the book that we read on Shavuot. During these 49 days, as we sit with it, I cannot recommend it highly enough. It is a short read, just 4 chapters. You can finish the whole book in 15 minutes, I promise. But more importantly, it's one of the most relevant, most important stories of our tradition. If it were on cable TV today, or perhaps a few years ago, I believe Ruth would have been the original Modern Family series, the sitcom that many of us came to love a few years ago, because it's the story of a family from differing backgrounds, the type of family that's countercultural and intercultural. And it's a story of how often society looks down upon those families, when in fact what society should be doing is learning from those families exactly how to practice love and loyalty and what it really means to be a family. It is, in fact, a model that we should be replicating, which is why we are spending these 49 days trying to engage in this story. The Reaching for Ruth initiative is our opportunity to come together and highlight one of the best family models in the Bible and to help our community aspire to be as caring, as open, as committed to each other as Ruth was to Naomi. And so I hope you will join us. Part of the series has already started as our rabbinic intern Ashley Barrett started this class last week, looking at women throughout Jewish history, including Ruth. It'll continue in our religious school as our families will have the opportunity to learn part of this story and do a wonderful family activity with Lauren Trexler. I'm interviewing Rabbi Melinda Mersak from J-Hub, the interfaith family organization in Northeast Ohio, in a few weeks, and I hope you'll join us for that. And in May, God willing, as the world, we hope, is healthy enough for us to get out together in person, Cantor Kathy will lead us on a walk and do Havdalah as we look out at nature and spend time together in our world as a community. I want to close by highlighting just one part of this story that I hope you will read during these 49 days. The story of Ruth and Naomi centers on the commitment that Ruth makes to make their family whole again after losing her husband and her mother-in-law, Naomi's husband, at the same time. Ruth is told to leave the family, go back to Moab where she came from, to start her life over, but she refuses. Wherever you go, I will go, she says. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people are my people, your God, my God. That is what it means to be committed to a people. That is what it means to be committed to progress, whether that progress is personal or that progress is for a more just world. It takes a heck of a lot of commitment, and it takes a lot of time. The amount of time to start over, to rewrite your story, as Ruth did. And so we count these days. Hineni muchan muzuman lekayem mitzvat aseh shel sfirat haomer. We are ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting this time, making the best of it, and not believing that when we get to the 49th day that our journey is over, but yet that we're just taking one step at a time to make progress as we count this day. Hayom shlosha asar yom shahem shavua echad v'shisha yamim laomer. Today is the 13th day of this journey, making it 1 week and 5 days of our Omer as we walk towards Shavuot. May we experience the 8th day. May we find it to be sacred. May we cherish it, even if it is more work than we thought we signed up for. For perhaps that is where holiness exists, and that is the journey we have always been on. One that may not have a finish line in our immediate sight, but one that makes progress every day. Shabbat Shalom. We turn now to our Torah service as we turn to page 246. We invite you to stand as we prepare to read these very words about that 8th day from Parshat Shemini in the book of Leviticus. Please rise.
Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, udevar Adonai mirushalayim. Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonai Kadosh Shemo. Gadolu Adonai iti, uneramema Shemo yakta. Lecha Adonai hagedula v'gevura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod. Kicho b'shamayim uvaretz, kicho b'shamayim uvaretz. Lecha Adonai hamamlacha v'hamid naseh lechol erosh.
Please join with me as we share together in the blessing before the reading of the Torah. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Amvarach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen. Vayehi bayom hashmini kara Moshe laharon uvanav uziknei Yisrael. Vayomer el Aharon kach lecha egel ben bakar lechatat va'il leola tamimim v'hakrev lifnei Adonai. Ve'el b'nei Yisrael tedaber lemor kechu se'ir izim lechatat ve'egel ve'cheves v'nei shana tamimim le'olah v'ashor va'ayil lishlamim Lizboach lifnei Adonai umincha belulav hashamen ki hayom Adonai nireh aleichem vayikeru et asher tiva Moshe el panei ohel moed vayikrevu kol ha'ada vayamadu lifnei Adonai.
Join together in the blessing after the reading of the Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah. Aaron and his sons had done all the things that God had commanded them through Moses for those 7 days. On the 8th day, Moses called Aaron and his sons and the elders of Israel. He said to Aaron, "Take a calf of the herd for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering, without blemish, and bring them before God. Speak to the Israelites and say, 'Take a goat for this offering, a calf and a lamb for a burnt offering, an ox and a ram for an offering of well-being to sacrifice before God, and a meal offering. For today, Adonai will appear to you.'" With our Torah out and the strength of our story before us, we offer that strength to those who are in need of healing. As we share the words, page 253 of Misha Berach, we invite you, if you're able, to place any names you would like into the chat or to say those names aloud of those who are in need of healing in this moment.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen.
Mishe Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. And let us say Amen.
We stand once again as we return our Torah to the Ark. As we return the Torah, will be followed by the words of Aleinu.
Etzayim hi lemachazikim ba v'tomecheha meushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivotecha shalom hashkivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva chadish Chadish Yameinu, Kekedem. Aleinu l'shabech l'adon hakol, l'tekedu l'aliotzer reshit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpechot adama, shelo sapnokenu chahem, v'gor aleinu k'chamonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, v'nemar, v'haya Adonai, lemelech al kol haaretz, v'yom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad.
This past week was the observance of Yom HaShoah, a sad day in the history of the world, a sad day that we observe together with the world, but also a day in which so much of our identity, our solidarity, our compassion for others has been built out of this immense sorrow and loss that we have personally experienced. We remember the people who suffered and died so that we could be free because of the Shoah, for the dreams left unfulfilled and lives taken too soon. The words we remember have become personal for us. Remembering brothers and sisters whose sacrifice kept the dream of democracy and justice alive, fighting with their courage, we let that be our inspiration and our strength because of this history that we know. We remember the fallen of armed services. We remember the victims of terror and tragedy differently because of the Shoah. We pray that the darkness of the loss of those who fought so valiantly not obscure the light of peace, for they were in love with our land, with life. And so we turn to our prayer that returns us to life as we remember those whom we've personally lost. Most recently in our community, Bruce Folkert Sr., Nate Light, and Donna Uranka. Added to their names, those that we lost at this season in years past: Bertram Adler, John Jonas Amper, Stanley Bober, Gene Cooper, Abe Fromson, Cantor Gedalia Gertz, Ethel Greenwald, Lawrence Haberman, Betsy Hillelson, Emmanuel R. Israf, Erwin Israf, Alvin Lieberman, Miriam Litt, Sam Marks, Suzanne Mukadis, Barbara Pollock, Yenta Profis, Francis Pulis, Sophia L. Reichenstein, Albert Rose, Hermine Klein Salpeter, Stanley Schultz, Kay Schwartz, Dora Seenberg, Jocelyn B. Singer, Lud Stern, Isabel Sugarman, Edith Wiskund, Turin Danielin Yedizion, and Sam Zabel. If there are names that I mispronounced, names you would like to say aloud, I encourage you to do so now as we turn to page 294. We share these words together, honoring those loved ones that we've lost and honoring life. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah. Be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. B'agala uv'izman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mivarach le'olam olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemei dekudashah b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechamata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, to all the world, and especially those who are remembering their loved ones on this Shabbat, as we say, amen. We reach out and connect with those around us, whether that is physically or connected through this technology, as we bless each other with the words of the priests. May God bless you and keep you. May God's presence be with you and be gracious unto you. May you always feel God's presence within you, and may you find that it brings you peace.
Amen.
We turn once again to the France family as they sanctify this Shabbat with the words of Kiddush and welcome us into our Shabbat meal, blessing Motzi. As we turn to them, we invite you to raise a glass with them as well.
There was evening and there was morning the sixth day. Heaven finished on the day. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing, and God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy. On it, God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi ofer min haaretz.
Once again, happy birthday to Natalie. We hope everybody will, if you know the France family, to reach out to them, wish her a happy birthday, and thank you for leading our blessings on this Shabbat. I mentioned earlier in the service all the programs we have coming up. You should be receiving relatively soon the window, maybe, by email form in the next week, and hopefully by mail form, who knows, hopefully in the next week. But in that next issue of the window, there's a lot of great information. All information that you'll also get in the weekly email, which we hope you're reading, because we are starting to find ways to come back together, and the spring is looking very busy. A lot of exciting programs, including the Reaching for Ruth series, which we hope you will join us for. What I did not mention in my talk earlier is that all of those who register for the watch party that we will have on Shavuot, where we will look back at everything we learned during these 49 days, we are going to deliver cheesecake, the traditional food of Shavuot, to all of those who register and join us for that watch party in May. So please pay attention to the emails coming out, to the window that you will get in the coming days, and mark your calendars so that we can start to come back together in new ways, ways that perhaps we almost can't remember now. As we come back together as a community, it's exciting to be able to be reaching this point where we do get to come back together as we've made this journey through this pandemic. And we hope that you will continue to get vaccinated. We're hearing every day about people who are out there helping people sign up to get their shots, and that people are having success finding appointments. The more and more we get vaccinated, the healthier we can be, the faster we can be together. So please get out there. In fact, I just got my second shot today. And so we hope that everyone continues to protect yourself and everyone else so we can be together soon. We'll conclude our service with the words of Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, as once again we thank Noah Fromson for joining us and adding beautiful music to our service along with Kaner Kathy. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. May shalom, peace increase in our world and find its way over us.
Odyuvo Shalom Aleinu.
Odyuvo Shalom Aleinu. Odyuvo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Odyuvo Shalom Aleinu. Odyuvo Shalom Aleinu. Odyuvo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam Odyuvo Shalom Aleinu. Odyuvo Shalom Aleinu. Odyuvo Shalom Aleinu.